Hello and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today I'm going over the games I played for the very first time in the month of May and giving my first impressions of those games. Now I had 40 plays across 8 different games that were all new to me in the month of May. And the very first one that I want to bring up is one I played 11 times, and that is For Northwood. Now, For Northwood is a solo-only trick-taking game, and that sounds kind of weird. I put off playing this game for a while because it sounded like it'd be weird to do, but it actually works really well, and I'm giving this game an 8 out of 10. Basically, how this game works is you are going to have these different rulers that are going to give you different abilities, as well as allies that you start out with in front of you. You're going to start with 4 allies in the standard game, and you are going to be able to use them for powers throughout the game. And so you are going to get your hand of 8 cards. You're going to look at those and try and decide how many tricks you're able to take. And the catch is you're going to have to, at some point over the course of the game, go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And you only do those once each per game, and you're going to have to try and decide which one you're going each round. And as you may be aware of, in trick-taking games, there's usually a trump suit. That's going to change based on the ruler that you are trying to go after. And so the ruler is going to be set up in a random kind of order, and you are going to say, okay, I'm going to take 5 tricks with this ruler this game, who is, let's say, the yellow suit. And so your yellow suit's going to be trump there. So you're going to be able to use that for trump, and you're going to have to try and take that many tricks. On the same hand, you may decide to go kneel and get 0 points. And so if you take a single one, then you're going to have problems. And so you're going to basically be responding to the cards that are played at random from the deck. And so you'll flip over a card and you'll have to respond. If you have the same suit, you have to follow suit. But if you don't, then you can either play off and not win the trick, or you can play a trump suit and try and win the trick that way. And so you're going to have to try and take just the right amount of tricks, and you have those powers that are going to help you along the way, kind of keeping you out of trouble at times. And so sometimes they'll even let you put a card back onto the deck or discard one so that you don't have to deal with that win that you didn't actually want. It's a very tricky game, very strategic game as you try and figure out things. But at the same time, there's a good bit of luck involved in the game as to will the right cards come out towards the end of that round. I really enjoyed it as a person who grew up playing spades. This is a great solo-only trick-taking game. Didn't think it could be done, but I enjoyed it very much. That is For Northwood, rated 8 out of 10. Now, the next game I want to bring up is Gloomhaven, Buttons and Bugs, this tiny little version of Gloomhaven. And this is a solo-only version of Gloomhaven, and it plays in about 20 to 30 minutes a session, and so a lot shorter than your typical Gloomhaven game. You're going to have 4 cards only that you're going to play no matter who you are. There's no difference in stamina from player to player in that sense, and you are going to have playing both sides of those cards. You'll play the A side first, and then those cards will come back and you'll play the B side. And so you have to kind of strategically figure out when to play these different cards to have them turn over so that you can then play the next side. And you are going to be rolling dice in this one to determine a bunch of different things, actually. There's going to be one die that's going to, same die you're going to roll each time. It's going to decide when the other player's initiative is going to go and what they're going to do on those initiatives. It's going to decide, as you are scrolling down this list of hits, whether you got the lesser hit, the middle hit, or the greater hit. And those are going to vary from round to round as you're going down this list of different ones. You'll know if your miss is likely to come up next round or not, or next attack or not, or whether your ×2 is likely to come up next attack or not. And you can kind of play around that a little bit. Advantage in this game is a little bit different than in Gloomhaven, as you're just rolling the dice twice, and so you could even get the lower result twice in a row and wind up still completely missing with advantage, or disadvantage is the same way. I don't know, it's just a fun game, and not quite as fun as Gloomhaven is. I got 8 plays of this game in the month of May, and I've got a good way through the about 15 game scenario. There's actually 20 scenarios, but you only play about 15 of them, I believe. There's certain scenarios that are only for certain characters. Enjoying it. It's a little bit different. Everything's really small. It's hard to read sometimes some of the different things. The health dials could have been a slightly different color to make it a little bit more obvious as you're looking at it, which one's which. Blue and the green kind of blur together a little bit, as well as maybe the purple and the blue. A few little qualms with the way things look. Especially with how small things are. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference on a thing between a push and pull just from a glance, just because how small things are. But I've been enjoying it. It's fun, quick to get through. I give it an 8 out of 10. Not quite as good as Big Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven, I give it a 10 out of 10. But I've been enjoying this for a little solo, quick version of Gloomhaven. You're going to get to play all the starting characters from the original Gloomhaven. They have very similar cards as the characters in Gloomhaven as far as the starting ones go. And so I've been enjoying it. Gloomhaven, Buttons, and Bugs. Another good little solo game here. Next one on my list is Fit to Print, and I played this 7 times in the month of May, and I'm going to be rating it a 7 out of 10. This is a real-time game where you are racing against the clock to set up your newspaper for the day, and you are going to be picking out of a pile in the middle of these different tiles that you are going to be looking at and saying whether you want to keep it or not. If you want to keep it, you put it on your little table. If you don't, you put it right back. And once you've collected as many as you think you're going to need, you then say you're going to print, and then you go ahead and you start putting those onto your board. You can't get any more tiles at that point, and any extras you pulled are actually going to be negative points if you aren't able to fit them into your board. You're trying to cover up as much white space as you can, as well as you're trying to score points by having different combos next to each other, as certain pictures want certain article colors next to them. And so you're trying to work that out. You can't put the same color article next to another article. You can't put an ad next to another ad. And so there's different things you're trying to figure out and work out, and you have 5 minutes at the longest time that they recommend. Now, they do say in the rule book that if you want a more casual gameplay, you can stretch that longer if you want to, or if you want a more aggressive, you can go even more aggressive than I think it's 3 minutes is the most aggressive they recommend. Honestly, I don't know how people do it any faster than 5 minutes. Are always coming down to the wire when we're playing the 5-minute game, trying to get things down and get them in the right place where they'll score the most points. Especially if you realize that you didn't really grab the best things, so you're trying to figure out how to make them work. And you're doing all that, both parts of the round in 5 minutes, and so it's really intense. I do like the fact that the solo mode has some different ways of playing that are a little bit more casual. You can do that kind of hectic, kind of trying to score as many points as quickly as possible like that, or there's a puzzle mode that you can play that gives you specific tiles that you're going to be using. There's no real time limit for that. You can spend as much time as you want, and you're trying to score basically a gold, silver, or bronze by getting everything in there. There's different scenarios as far as what you need to have happen in that as well. And it's kind of an interesting little kind of way to play, as well as the different scenario-based games where you're trying to beat the clock as well. And so I think I like some of the solo modes to play a little bit better than the standard multiplayer mode there, just because it can get so hectic trying to do all that. But then again, it's hectic for everybody. Real times aren't my favorite style of game, and so that's why I kind of a little iffy on this one. I like the fact that there are some modes, though, that aren't that real time in the solo puzzle mode type thing. So that's Fit to Print. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. My next game on my list is another solo-only game, and this is 20 Strong. I had 5 plays in the month of May, and I'm rating this one a 7 out of 10 as well. Originally, when I first started playing, I was thinking it was going to be more a 7.5 or 8. Then for a moment, I kind of dipped down into maybe a 6.5, but I come back up to a 7. And the reason for all of that is it really starts to feel a little bit samey after you've gotten the hang of the game. But at the same time, once you start getting into the more difficult levels, there's different ways. There's a way to increase the difficulty by playing more missions, as well as when you go up in those difficulty levels, you're also either going to have to banish a die, you can't use it for the entire round, or exhaust 3 dice, which means they're going to start out where you have to get them back before you can play them. And so it is getting a little bit harder. I've only played it on the 2nd difficulty level so far, and so I haven't really advanced in all that. But I do find playing more missions really does kind of help give a little bit more longevity to this game. And basically what you're doing in this game, you are going up against, at least in the base game, these sentinels, and you are aliens or something like that. I think you're the sentinels maybe even. Anyway, it's the sentinels, and you are going to be getting dice. It's called 20 Strong because there are 20 dice. And these 20 dice, there's 3 of them that are stat dice, which represent your health, your strategy, which means how many times you can roll dice in each encounter, as well as how many different items that you can keep. And then you also have how many dice you recover at the end of each round, naturally. And there's some items that let you recover as well. And then all the rest are these dice that you roll. They're different colors because they represent the amount of hits that you have on each dice. The yellow ones have the least amount of hits. They're going to have 2 hits, including a crit, which gives you 2 damage for the hit. Then you have the greens, which are going to have 3. You have the blues, which have 4 hits. You have the purples, which have 5 hits, and the red has 6 hits. Every die side is a hit, and so you always want to kind of have that one in your arsenal there. And so you're going to be rolling these. You're trying not to roll too many in a round because you can only get so many back depending on your starting, and then as you start to add, maybe with different effects that you go throughout the game, may give you more dice that you get to recover. And so you want to be careful you don't run out of dice by overcommitting dice throughout the game. And you are going to have multiple attempts to roll dice for each one depending on your, again, the amount on that one die that tells you how many strategy you have. And so you're going up against these baddies. Some of the baddies are mandatory. You have to play against them. Others, you get to choose which one out of a row of 3 that you get to want to play against. Some of them will have you bring in more baddies when you bring those in. And one time I had like 5 different bad guys I was going against in one encounter just because they each kind of kept comboing off of one another, adding more bad guys. And you're going to get items as you go through. They're going to help you. Some of them are going to be ongoing effects items, and some are going to be items that you play one time. And then others are going to give you an immediate ability when you beat them at the end of that round. So there's different things that you're going to get from those different bad guys, and ultimately you're trying to work up to get what you need to be able to face the big bad guy. There's 4 different ones. Some abilities let you look at the top one. The next one time you do that, you may be able to discard that one and look at the next one. There's 6 different ones that you can go as far as your heroes that have different abilities, different starting stats, and ability throughout the game. There's a little decent bit going on, and the missions are what really kind of gives it a little bit more longevity, is you're going to reveal a certain amount of missions depending on the difficulty, and you have to choose one of those to discard that you don't play against, and the rest you have to go against in order that they came up. And they can really change the way you're going to be playing the game for a little bit there. And so I do enjoy, especially as getting more than just the 3 missions there, as you get into more difficulty ones, and so that's why I kind of came back up to a 7 on this one. It is fun, especially if you don't mind a bit of luck. And we'll see how it goes as we get further and further into the difficulty there. Now the next one I'm going to talk about is Aqua. And this one I played 4 times, and I'm going to rate it a 7 out of 10. This game is a way thinkier than I originally thought it would be when I first looked at it. I thought I'd enjoy it, and I do still enjoy it, but boy, did it take a bit to figure out the strategy and what you need to do in a game. And so basically what you're going to do here is you're going to have this biome that you're going to be setting up, and you're going to be trying to play these different animals into the biome, the small animals you're going to play in, and you're going to try and get them next to coral if you can, which is going to have like 4 or more of the same color. And in order to actually play the animal, you have to have 3 on one square that you're going to play on top of that, and so, or one area kind of coming together there. And then you can play big animals on top of that based on different shapes that are going to cover your smaller animals. And they want to be on different types of small animals. And it can be a very thinky game just to even figure out how you're going to get things played, let alone optimize your scoring. And it's a very complicated scoring system, which is probably what kind of, made me in the beginning kind of, whoa, this is like a lot to figure out, a lot to wrap your mind around. It's not that complex to actually play, to actually figure out how to actually put things in, but the scoring system is super complex the first time you play it. Figure out how you're going to be able to score things. And still isn't, even after a few plays, it can be kind of difficult to figure out. And so I really enjoyed it once that kind of started coming together in my mind. And another nice thing about Aqua is there's lots of solo scenarios that you can play in this one that kind of sets you up with different things to try and focus on and do. It's very similar to a lot of games like Cascadia and Calico as far as how the scenarios work for the solo game, and that you have certain setups and different whatnot, trying to play those things. Really enjoy it, both multiplayer and solo. I can recommend it as a 7 out of 10, and that is Aqua. Next one I want to bring up is Wild Tiled West. And this one actually made my top 10 games of 2023, the very bottom of that list, even after only 3 plays in the month of May. I wish I'd gotten some more plays of this game, man. I wish I'd gotten to play it solo so far, but I haven't. It does have a solo mode where you are going to be using a app to do it. I think you can also play it solo without the app, but there's an actual 6-game campaign with the app that I want to try out. And it's a lot of fun. It's a polyomino placement game. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this because you can look at my top 23 or top 10 2023 games to get a further idea about this game. Plus, at some point, I'll probably review it. But basically, what you're doing is you are drafting these polyomino tiles based on a die that's rolled. You're going to roll as many dice as there are players, plus 1, I believe it is. And then first player is going to get to get to pick first and draft the tile that's next to that dice, and so on and so forth until everybody's gotten a tile. There are going to be different things these tiles are going to do. They're going to try and score you points. Some are going to actually kind of be a negative there, as you have bandits that are going to cause you to lose points if you have the most bandits at the end of a handful of turns. You're going to have to try and focus on getting those down, but you can also use a sheriff to eliminate the bandits, and then they actually get you points at the end of the game if you are able to do that. And so that's a good thing there. You got asymmetric setup for your boards as you're trying to fill out these cities and stretch out to the other cities and get different bonuses. There's asymmetric powers as far as if you want to play on the advanced mode. Lots of cool things going on with this game. Really enjoy it. It's becoming one of my, it may not be my favorite polyomino placement game, but it's up there in my enjoyment of polyomino placement games. And so that is Wild Tiled West. I give it an 8 out of 10. I don't think I actually mentioned that earlier. 8 out of 10 for Wild Tiled West. And the next one I want to talk about is 3 Ring Circus. I only played this one time so far, and I'm giving it a 7.5 out of 10. And so this game is one where you are basically, you have your circus, you're competing against other circuses, you're going to be moving around on this board to perform, and you're going to be getting different performers into your kind of tableau of performers that you have 3 different sets for, and you have to have them in order from left to right, descending to ascending. You get certain bonuses as you play characters down in certain areas on your board, and then you're also going to be trying to accomplish different goals throughout the game. They're going to give you extra points as well. You can perform in small cities or towns or big cities, and they're going to each have their different ways that those play. There's a lot of different things going on in this game. It's very complex for what's. It doesn't look like it's going to be as complex as it is when you first look at it, but there's just so much going on to focus on throughout this game, trying to optimize things. You're also going to have this other circus that's going to be going around. It's basically the counter for the game. Whenever it gets to certain areas, you're going to score. Who has the most in that area is going to score points, and whoever has second most. There's a lot of different things to focus on, some interaction based on what you're doing on the board, basically. There's not a whole lot of interaction in the game, but you do kind of have to pay attention to where others are being as far as the area control aspect goes for when that's going to score. But even if you don't focus on that as much, there's other ways that you can score points as well. And so there's a lot of different ways you can focus on trying to optimize your game and score points. And so there's definitely space for you to play differently than others and still possibly win the game. And so that is 3 Ring Circus. Really like to get this back to the table a little bit more to see what I really think about it overall. And then the last game I want to talk about, I don't actually have here. It's a friend's game, and that was Animals Gathering. I played it as well one time in the month of May, and I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. And in Animals Gathering, you are basically going to draft these animals to in front of you, and then you're going to be rolling dice to get certain symbols that you're able to apply those pieces to your animal. When you finish the animal, you're able to score for that animal, get some sort of ongoing ability or immediate effect. Different things are going to help you win the game as well. Some of them have different goals that you're going to score points at the end of the game for if you are able to kind of match up with that goal a little bit more often. So there's a few different ways you can think about focusing on different things, and when a certain amount of animals have been played by one person, I want to say it's 5, that triggers the end game. Everybody gets to play it out, and then at the end of that you decide who's the winner by who has the most points across the different animals that they score that are worth victory points, as well as the bonuses on some of those animals that are going to give you victory points for having certain types of animals and such, different things like that. And so that is Animals Gathering. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. It's a fun, light, quick game. And so it doesn't try to do too much, and you can play it like pretty quickly. And so I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. So these are the games that I played for the first time in the month of May. Hoping to get some more plays into some of these games, maybe even get some playthroughs, some solo playthroughs of a few of these games done this month so that you can check those out, or maybe next month. And so be looking forward to those. Check out my video from Top 10 Games 2023 as I go over Wild Tiled West. Check out some of my other videos, and as always, I hope you've enjoyed this video, giving you something to think about some of these games, and I'll catch you in the next one.